8-hour days are not a thing that I really like to do, but summer program demands it, and I don't get a lot of sleep, really, at all, before going to work on days like that. Days like today, where I got up at 6:30 in the morning and took a shower and put on my work t-shirt and drove to work and got there before my boss. Does this mean I get a raise? I slept 3.5 hours last night. It was miserable, and I got home, and I was exhausted, and I don't like 8-hour days, and I don't think that I should have to work them anymore. I'm just coming off of a packet at Bennington, so my brain is fried. I, can't. It's like mush. Ugh. But there have been some things happening that have me thinking. Usually, I'm thinking, it doesn't matter how exhausted I am, I can't shut my head off. It's always like, all the time. Does anybody else feel like that? It doesn't matter, because what I'm thinking about is writing for people. I've been wanting in the last couple of weeks to write something for someone, and it's really frustrating when all you want to do is, put something down on paper, and it just, won't at all. That's what we're going to talk about. The literary compulsion to write for someone. John Green, who is the author of several award-winning and New York Times bestselling novels, has a quote about this. It was actually on Zen Pencils a couple of weeks ago. Months ago, maybe? It goes like this. Every single day, I get emails from aspiring writers asking my advice about how to become a writer. And here is the only advice I can give. Don't make stuff because you want to make money. It will never make you enough money. Don't make stuff because you want to get famous, because you will never feel famous enough. Make gifts for people. And work hard on making those gifts in the hope that those people will notice. Maybe they will notice how hard you worked, and maybe they won't. And if they don't notice, I know it's frustrating, but ultimately that doesn't change anything, because your responsibility is not to the people you're making the gift for, but to the gift itself. This, of course, is very easy for John Green to say, given that he has written a best-selling novel that was dedicated to someone. Come on, John Green. I call foul. It's not that this book is actually even for the person it's dedicated to, Esther. She's a cancer kid. Because this book isn't even really about cancer. It's that it was dedicated at all. Did he write it for her? Did he? I don't know. It's complicated, because this isn't about dying. It's about living. It's a big, complicated, awesome feeling, and also, it's signed. Naturally, like the geek I am, when I was thinking about dedications and writing for people, I went right to my shelf and all of the books that I love the most, and looked to see if there were any dedications that I found to be profound. The brilliant and wonderful Joan Didion, who wrote 2 memoirs of grief, essentially. And because in nonfiction we're always writing to, about, for, some kind of grammatical word, someone, these books are a brilliant example. This is the memoir after the death of her husband. This after the death of her daughter. Joan Didion puts grief on paper, and in this second one she puts aging on paper as well, so that these books turn out to be big conglomerate feelings about what it is to grow old and to lose everything that you love. She distills pain and makes it into something beautiful. I don't know. There aren't words for it. East of Eden by John Steinbeck. It's kind of famous, actually. Dear Pat, you came upon me carving some kind of little figure out of wood, and you said, "Why don't you make something for me?" I asked you what you wanted, and you said, "A box." What for? To put things in. What things? Whatever you have, you said. Well, here's your box. Nearly everything I have is in it, and it is not full. Pain and incitement are in it, and feeling good or bad, and evil thoughts and good thoughts, the pleasure of design and some despair, and the indescribable joy of creation. And on top of these are all the gratitude and love I have for you. And still the box is not full. John. What you need to know about this book is that I love it. But it's not even really for Pat. It's the story of Steinbeck's family. Half of this book is an allegory, and half of this book is a history. And it's brilliant. It's flawed, but it's brilliant. Steinbeck wrote to Pat on the back pages of every book that he wrote. So, as he was writing East of Eden, he wrote letters to Pat before he started writing for the day. So, essentially, he used Pat's letters to warm up, and then dedicated the result to the man himself. But he's not mentioned at all in the book that he's apparently responsible for. Steinbeck's family is, though. Nabokov apparently dedicated Lolita to his wife Vera, which I find kind of disturbing because pedophilia? This is the book that started me writing in the first place. Sandra Cisneros, The House on Mango Street, and it's a bit of a broader dedication, a las mujeres, for the women, which makes perfect sense given that this is a book about women of color, about getting the hell out, and finding your power in a culture where it's practically illegal to be strong and have an XX chromosome. I remember reading this book and thinking that it was written to me. Well, because it was. I'm one of those women, aren't I? But am I who Sandra Cisneros had in mind when she was writing this book? I mean, maybe. Because this one's signed too! I apparently have a thing for signed books. When I went to Neil Gaiman's reading last month, this is his new novel, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, he told the audience that he wrote it for his wife. He said that he was going to take a little bit of the fantasy out and put a little bit more of himself and his feelings and other things that his wife liked into the book. But it's Neil Gaiman all over, and it doesn't seem to have anything to do with her at all. Oh, yeah. I just realized this month, actually, that there was a piece that I'd written last year, and I'd only just met the person that it was meant for. I didn't know that I was writing for this person at the time, of course, but I knew that this piece belonged in their hands. And that's a powerful feeling, to think that maybe we can't write for people. Maybe we can only write to them and use letters, and the rest of the time we have to be writing for ourselves? Because wasn't that what I was doing in this last piece? I was writing to a piece of myself. I write nonfiction because some things are too painful to keep to myself, and some things are too beautiful to hold on to. But that's about me. And isn't that essentially what the writer's journey is? It being about you. It's a solitary thing. And yet, this compulsion to create, to dedicate, to say, this belongs to you. I don't know, honestly. From what I see, dedications are just things that go in the front of books, because every big feeling that I've gotten, the Ted Berrigan poem that is exactly My Father and I, Cisneros' book that is growing up as a Mexican woman, Steinbeck's box, and what it is to have a choice in your life, and John Green's portrayal of new, beautiful, unlasting love. All of these things are big. They're huge. They're things that can't possibly be just for the person they were dedicated to. Which leads me to believe that if you want to write to someone, you write a letter. And if you want to write for someone, you write for you and the rest of the world. Because that's not a challenge or anything.